Hey kiddos, good to see you. It's time for your YouTube activity for week 9. It's week 9 already. Crazy. All right, got a few jokes for you. A few more money jokes. How do you know the moon is going broke? It's down to its last quarter. How about this one? What lands as often on its tail as it does on its head? A penny. Like when you flip it. All right, final joke for this week. Why did the football coach yell at the vending machine? He wanted his quarterback. That's all right if you don't get those jokes, you just don't like them. All right, so we're talking about a famous song, a famous guitar song called Hey There Delilah this week by a group called the Plain White T's. The Plain White T's named themselves after a band that they had seen, an album cover that they had seen in one of their favorite bands, where all the guys in the band were wearing a regular white t-shirt like this. So they called themselves the Plain White T's. They just thought it was a good name. So we're going to talk about the band a little bit and about the song a little bit. I'm wearing my Taylor shirt this week because the main guy in the band uses Taylor guitars. I love Taylor guitars. So let's talk a little bit more about the song and the band right now. Here's a picture of the Plain White T's. They started in 1997 and they're still around. Most of the guys that were in the band originally aren't in the band anymore. But the main guy is that guy in the center of the picture, the guy sitting on the couch in the middle. He's the main lead singer and he wrote their most famous song, Hey There Delilah. So he's kind of who we're going to be talking about here. And speaking of that, there he is. His name is Tom Higginson, and he's a guitar player and a singer. And you might notice if you look at the fretboard of his guitar, the place where all the frets are, it actually says Plain White T's on the fretboard. That's called an inlay. You can get designs and so forth put into the wood of your fretboard if you pay for it from a guitar maker. So he likes Taylor guitars. I'm wearing my Taylor shirt today. I love Taylor guitars. And with Taylor guitars, you can get inlays like that if you pay them enough. You might also notice that the guitar is like lighter on the inside than it is on the outside. You know, the edges of the guitar are darker than the middle. That's called a sunburst. It's supposed to sort of look like the sun is shining through some clouds. It's a really neat painting technique they use on some guitars. Doesn't make it sound any different, but it's just kind of cool. So there's Tom. Here is the group with the girl who inspired the song. So the only girl there, the one in the middle wearing the dress, that's a girl named Delilah DeCrescenzo. And she's just a person that Tom met once upon a time and kind of had a crush on. She had a boyfriend at the time, and I think he even had a girlfriend at the time. And the story is that he met this girl and they hung out, he and I think her boyfriend and her. And when it was time for him to leave, he gave her a CD and he said, hey, here's a CD of my group and we've got a song about you. And then later she listened to the CD and didn't really hear a song about her. So she asked him, well, when are you going to do a real song about me? And he eventually did. And it became their big hit, Hey There Delilah. So again, the band is called the Plain White T's. Their big hit song is called Hey There Delilah. They also had a couple other hits. One of them was called 1, 2, 3, 4. You might want to check that one out. This song, Hey There Delilah, came out in 2005. And it actually got a Grammy nomination. I think they had 2 Grammy nominations. A Grammy Award is like the biggest award you can get as a musician. So when they got that Grammy Award nomination, they of course went to the Grammy Awards. They didn't win, but they went to it. And Tom invited Delilah to be his date to go with him. And she went. So that's pretty cool. They used to be a punk rock band, kind of a, you know, loud, fast, in your face kind of band. But then Tom got in a bad accident, and it sort of changed his style as a writer and as a performer, and it kind of made them a little mellower. And I think you'll agree that Hey There Delilah isn't really an in-your-face rock and roll, punk rock kind of song. It's a lot calmer. I guess I didn't mention yet that that girl, Delilah, was a track star. She was on the track team at a college. She was good at running long distances and doing a event called the steeplechase, where you run a lot, but you also jump over things and even jump into water. Anyway, she was good at that. And those of you who might have watched iCarly on Nickelodeon, I think it was, when you were younger, they were on that show one time. I haven't seen that episode, but apparently they were on it, so that's neat. Some things we can learn from the Plain White T's. First of all, Tom is finger picking on this song like James Taylor did in the video we watched a couple weeks ago. His technique isn't quite as good as James, but he is pretty good at that elephant thing where you're supposed to have your thumb out here like the trunk of an elephant and the legs over here. He's pretty good at that. Instead of being like this, he's more like this. So I hope those of you that want to be finger pickers will be more picky with yourself about it than he is. Number two, we already talked about those cool fretboard inlays on his guitar. I really think that's neat. Number three, he traditionally, on this song at least, almost always only plays one string at a time, but it still sounds cool. You don't have to play more than one string at the same time to sound awesome. So I'll demonstrate that in just a minute. And number four, in this video that you're going to watch from the Plain White T's, you will probably notice that the whole band isn't really playing all the time. It's mostly just a guitar and singing kind of song. And you know, when you're in a band, not everybody has to play all the time. And maybe some people don't play as much as others on certain songs. It can give your band more variety and give your music more variety, and I think that's neat. Here are your questions for this week. Number one is the same as always. Again, please make sure you're specific and give me a complete thought or two on that. Make sure you end your sentence with a period or exclamation point. Number two, I'm just wondering why you like to play guitar. Hopefully you do like to play guitar. Tell me why. Number three is the same as always. Please tell me what's making you mad, sad, or glad today. It's okay if you're not feeling much. Not everybody has very intense emotions. That's all right. But if you got something going on, I would love to hear about it. Even if it's like touchy stuff, even if it's hard to talk about, I will never embarrass you about it. But it will help me to know about it, and maybe I can help you. Let's look a little bit at how Tom plays his guitar. First of all, as I mentioned before, it's a Taylor guitar. This is a Taylor guitar, one of my favorites. He is a finger picker. He doesn't really use a pick very often. He usually uses his fingers. And on this particular song, he starts on a D chord like this, and pretty much only does one string at a time. Like maybe string 5 first, and then string 3. And just goes back and forth between those two. Later he does something like this. Something like that. So it's mostly just one string at a time. Also, as I mentioned before, his elephant technique isn't perfect. It's not like this like it's supposed to be. It's more like this, but he still gets the job done, obviously. When I play this song, I like to use D5 instead of D. I just think it's easier to play. D5 is a power chord. We've talked about power chords in class before. Power chords are either 2 or 3 strings, and they're like this. String 5, fret 5, string 4, fret 7. Sounds just like what I was doing before. They sound the same even though they're played in different places. So when Tom plays it, it's mostly over here. When we try it in class, it's going to be mostly over here with power chords. So anyway, Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the song. If not, just tell me why, and it's all good.